And I believe we are live. Hi, everybody, and welcome to your favorite weekly series, Grace Under Pressure, where
I love that you still say that.
Where we feature consorts from around the known world. This week, it is Duchess Faizeh of CAID, and next week, we will be featuring Count Yehuda of North Shield, who will be our first male consort, which is super exciting.
That's right.
Dagmar, would you like to continue?
Yes. And I'm stalling a little bit just so people can find us, while we're doing this fun opening part. I did post on the comments in the Sisters main page that folks can comment in that post if they can't find us. Obviously, anybody hearing this now, that does not apply to you, but I'm sure that one of us will find anyone who can't find the live feed, and we'll be able to send them in the right direction. So if we appear a little distracted, that's what we're doing. We're monitoring that because Facebook, in its infinite glory and wisdom, decided to change the page user experience. But what that really means is they somehow managed to make it 40,000 times as hard for you to use an outside service to launch live. I'm sure undoubtedly to encourage people to use their own proprietary service within Facebook, but whatever, that's fine. There are no good guys. There's no white hats in the situation, only black hats. I'm looking at you, Zoom. So this week, you'll notice that Joel looks quite different because Joel is not Joel. That is a Shaxi, one of our fabulous owners of the Sisters Interview Network. That is a Shaxi on screen, live and in person, not just heckling us through the comments during the interview. And Joel was not able to quite make it to a computer this evening to do this interview, which we understand. The world keeps moving on no matter how many people we interview. So Joel, wherever you are right now, probably not listening, but wherever you are, we love you. So Shaxi is one of my dearest friends, no matter what she says, and she is a Laurel Volunteer and one of the two sisters comprising the Sisters Interview Network. She has two beautiful children, one of whom is my godson, or godless son, since I am not of a god, and her consort, the person she is inspired by, is Sir Octamasades, and she is a lovely human to step in. Thank you, Dawn. I mean, Shaxi.
Thank you, Your Grace. My co-host and the master co-host of the evening is Duchess Dagmar of Untitled. She is a Laurel. She is a Duchess. Her consort is Duke Thorin Nielsen of Untitled, who is a wonderful human being.
Has a great butt.
Especially in those leather pants.
Yeah. Thank you, Hugo.
Yeah, so there we are.
There we are. That's all we really need to say.
Special thank you.
Normally we're a little more formal than this, but nah.
We've lost it.
I'm just going to say no. I would like to, as always, extend a very special thank you to Shaxi and her sister Rifkin for hosting Grace Under Pressure on the Sisters Interview Network. And so, Shaxi, would you please introduce our wonderful guest who's been so patient with our tech difficulties?
She is a goddess because she spent the last 15 minutes watching me try to figure this out. It's bad.
She kept a smile on her face.
Duchess Faizeh has reigned twice in CAID. She was made a countess in 2007, and in 2008 became a duchess, and also served as regent of CAID in 2018. And you're also a Laurel, is that correct?
No, I am not a Laurel. I am
But rub that point in there, Dawn.
No,
you're not a Laurel, right?
You're not, right?
I thought you were. I've admired your work from afar for so long.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry.
That's why I put the OP listing in the show notes.
We're gonna have to edit the
but
description.
I have been a Pelican vigilant for a year, so
that's very cool. So you went on vigil right before the world stopped?
Yep. So I could have done it virtual. I could have done the elevation virtually, but I would rather wait and be among my friends in person. So,
Yeah. Let's talk offline about the David Attenborough series where he talked about pelicans, because it's a cautionary tale that I think you should know about, but we don't want to take up airspace with that right now.
Okay.
We'll just leave that as a little bit of intrigue. So our first softball question of the evening is, what are your SCA origins and what brought you to the SCA when you first started?
So let's see, back in the day, my my husband actually had a friend that he went to college with, and she and I ended up being in dance class together. And she and her husband were always trying to invite us to the SCA, and my husband went to one event and I was like, that's a bunch of nerds. And meanwhile, all of my cats had Star Trek names meanwhile. But anyway.
I mean, yeah, nerd is a very subjective line. And in the geek hierarchy, SCA people aren't even near the bottom. We're embarrassingly high on the hierarchy. So.
It's true. And so they invited us to a local war, and I was like, fine. And it was kind of just to please the friend. And she was like, we can dance by the campfire. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I had so much fun. And I was like, here's another place that I get to dance. And that was that.
So you were dancing before you found the SCA?
Yes. So I was a dancer, and then I started in the SCA. And actually, when I first started, I was planning on having a Byzantine persona, and I was kind of trying on different names, and then I realized that I had several friends that I knew as dancers, and then I knew them in the SCA now as well, and they had a different name. So they had their dance name, and then they had their SCA name, and then they had their modern name. And I was forever.
And then they had their live journal name, and then they had their. I mean, it's whenever people say that they can't remember people's pronouns, I'm like, how many different platforms do you have identities on, and how many email addresses or screen names do you?
Right.
Do you keep? You can keep track of people's pronouns too.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed. So, but I was always calling them by the wrong thing. I was always calling them their SCA name at the dance events, or, whatever. And so I have had a love of Silk Road cultures for my entire life. My entire life, I've been very, very interested and a little obsessed with Silk Road cultures. And so I was like, I'm going to use my stage name I made sure that I could. And I knew that I would rather probably end up doing some kind of Central Asian or North African persona anyway, and it made sense. And so that was how I came to this.
I love it. I mean, so have you always been in CAID for the whole time you've been in the SCA? So did you realize that the SCA, like there's camping and stuff in other kingdoms, or did that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The man that I consider my very first friend that I met in the SCA was Viscount Sir Michael St. Severin, I think was his full name. Anyway, and he was a Viscount of the West, but he lived down here, and we had hit it off really well. And so, yes, I knew about the West, and I didn't really fully understand the breadth of it, but yes. And then I think my second event was Great Western War, which is CAID's largest event. So
I've never been.
Oh my goodness, you should come to it. It's so fun.
There's How much sunblock do you have in Southern California?
It is a very shady site.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying as someone who has to slather on like 100 SPF.
I'm not just a natural redhead. I am see-through. Like my skin is literally transparent. And we went to, the May before the pandemic, we came down and visited all the theme parks. Well, not all of them, all the ones that I could take my autistic kid to. And I went through 2 whole containers of the Neutrogena baby, like roll on, which is my favorite one. Everybody, the Neutrogena baby one that's a stick is so awesome. But I went through 2 of those in the week that we were down there because I'm like, there's not enough sunblock in the world. So
I understand.
Anyway, I'm just that way, but I would love to go to Great Western War sometime just because I hear there's a lot of dancing there. So that would be really cool to see.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm partial to it because it's my kingdom, and I've been on staff for the war for like since I stepped down practically, however many, over a decade ago, and so it is very dear to my heart.
How was the transition for you to go from modern, I guess, dancing? Were you doing tribal or?
So my background is in a style called American Cabaret. My original teacher, that's what she did, and she danced at some of the kind of famous places from the 80s here in Southern California, and tribal was kind of becoming a big thing late like really taking off late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
And that was more my hobby for a while, and I started studying specifically Egyptian style with Zara Zuhair. But I always really loved that kind of that fusion of it, and then of course starting to play in the SCA, since its roots are in Renaissance fairs from the 60s. It was kind of a natural thing to kind of study more. And I studied it for a long time and actually put on a competition for a while that was for those styles. But I really only do those fusion styles as a hobby now. I'm very focused on Rux Sharkey in my modern life. So, but in the SCA, I love studying or trying to figure out how they would have danced in the courts, and I was very fortunate that I have been able to take classes with a woman named Dr. Robin Friend, and she's an expert in classical Persian dance. Wow. And so that was a huge privilege for me. And then some other Central Asian dance teachers here, and that has really helped inform the way I'm able to look at the miniatures to kind of pluck out what they're doing so I can recreate that. And I just kind of expected I would just continue to do belly dance in the SCA. It's fun. But trying to, I do belly dance a lot less, and I do classical Persian a lot more in the SCA.
And we'll have some great photos to look at in a bit when we get there. I appreciate what you're saying because I think, not being a dance anthropologist, but let's just set that aside. There is always there's sort of distinctions between what's classical dance versus what's dance for entertainment purposes, that's for an audience, and what's folk dance, so dance that's participatory, and they're not really the same, and we shouldn't conflate them. The cabaret style is very much a performance, right? It's not intended necessarily to be participatory in the way that folk dancing might be, where you might get people up to dance with you, and not in a performative way. And in the SCA, we kind of have sort of this tendency to only do the performance style and not the classical style, and not the the folk dance style, you know, and to understand that they are different. And just because we don't have a ton of information about them, you know, doesn't mean we can't try and make those distinctions within SCA culture. I mean, it's, as you know, like often large fires at night end up feeling a little bit like a bar, like an adult,
Yes.
an adult bar.
Yes, some of the dancers are more interested in finding a bed warmer than actually, and you know, they get to do what they want to do. I'm not there to police them. So, but
no,
if
but
they,
probably the fact that so much of this style of dance is sort of only occurring at night is part of the issue. Like it's not daylighted in the way that other types of dance is, you know, and I think that's part of the issue. But it, you know, the SCA's had a problem with this for a long time, and it's so nice when people are taking that on. And I know, you know, one of the reasons we're interviewing you is because my dear friend Garan, our dear friend Garan, it recommended you, and she's kind of part of my gold standard, that if she's like, this person is doing this right in the SCA, then I'm like, okay, then like that says a lot about what they're doing and the kind of person they are. So and that's meaningful because we don't, you know, need to be misrepresenting these cultures.
well, that I was just going to say that really means a lot to me, that she appreciates my work, because she's from the culture, like
An adjacent, an adjacent culture.
I want to honor the cultures that I am borrowing from. And so if someone who, obviously it would be important to somebody to be represented well. And so it really, actually, the fact that she approves of my depiction is a huge, huge deal to me.
I mean, not to put words in her mouth, she can let you know if I'm wrong, but yeah. I'm sure she's watching. She's watching right now, so we can say anything we want. She can't, you know.
She usually is pretty supportive of me, and it means a lot to me. She'll tag me when she sees some classical performance that she really enjoys, and she'll tag me in that. And I love that she knows that I want to see that too. Yeah. So it definitely means a lot to me. I have a secret like fantasy that one of these days she will sing and I will get to dance and we can perform.
Well, now that you've said it,
yes, that's kind of
why
why
it's not secret. So we can all say, hey, Garan, we would all like it to see a performance where you sing while Faizeh performance with dance. Can you do that, please?
That would be awesome.
We're broadcasting that right now. So yeah. Did you dance while you were queen?
I did. And in fact, my nickname was the Dancing Queen. So, we have an event. I don't know if this is common across the other kingdoms, but here in CAID, we have an event each reign that is an arts specific event where it's called Festival of the Rose, and it's to honor the queen. And so my second one, some friends of mine surprised me. It was really, really neat because it's important to me to promote period Central Asian and North African Manat dance. It's important to me to promote that within the SCA because most people don't know that there's a difference. They just don't know. And so I do my best to kind of promote, like, it is still beautiful. It may not be, you know, this, which is also really beautiful and fun, but it's really, really beautiful and worth researching and trying. Anyway, so and also while I was queen, it was really important to me to promote the performance arts because static arts tend to get more traction. And so anyway, some friends of mine that I know that also do modern belly dance as well, I don't even know how I got this idea, but they had said that they were, somehow I got the idea that they were going to do a period style performance for me. And I was really, really excited. And they came out and did kind of an old school ATS, which is modern, but they did an ATS set, and then they were taking their zills off, and I was anticipating that that was when they were going to do this period Persian or Turkish style court dance. And then ABBA came on, and they did a whole dance to Dancing Queen, and they were like pointing at me, and it was absolutely hilarious. Everyone in the room was busting up. There were a couple people that were like, this isn't period, but I didn't care. And it was really, really fun. So yeah, that was
There's
fun.
space in the SCA for things that aren't period.
Yeah, I agree. If we can filk, then
That's right.
we can.
At the very least, those of you who have a problem with things in the SCA that aren't period, just you can revel in your superiority. It's still a moment that you get to enjoy where you can be like, oh, I am so above this. Okay, enjoy that. So
And for the rest of us, frivolity is really important.
frivolity is really important. Just don't wear Crocs. I think we're clear about that. Don't wear Crocs, and everything else just falls into place.
I have to say that I kind of feel like you shouldn't wear those ever. I mean, even
Bless you. You know what? If people have like medical reasons to wear Crocs, or if you're like under the age of 5, by all means. But Shaxi and I have a story about Crocs that we think we've already told on this series, but involving a late night injury of somebody right outside our tents, and a very loud conversation of somebody yelling at them, Crocs aren't shoes, because they had fallen off a sidewalk. And we were in the next, like we were feet away with like a toddler in her tent, and or baby in your tent, toddler in mine. And we're just like,
oh my,
you know, so now we're like, Crocs aren't shoes. Which
it
is
goes through my mind now when I see them.
It's not our most pure like sentiment, but just don't wear them. Okay, anyway, maybe we should move on with the questions of Shaxi before this totally derails.
Okay. So I don't know how to segue into this, so I'm just gonna ask it.
Just do it, yeah.
Okay. What would current you go back and tell pre-first reign you? What advice do you have for new corn?
Oh my
Consorts?
gosh. What would current? I would. Well, actually, I might say to pre-reign me. The thing that I actually try to convey to fighters always, and their consorts, but when fighters come to me and ask for my advice on who they should, ask to be their consort, you never get to be a nobody ever again. And so before you do that, not only is there the whole, you need to know that you're getting into something huge, and people are going to, look at you in a certain way, and you're going to be on all the time at every single event. Aside from all the exhausting things that happen while you're crowned, you never get to be a nobody ever again. So, for example, even though I stepped down for the second time in 2008, a lot of the people that play now, that are my friends now, never even saw me as queen, because they started subsequently. And yet, if I am not careful about anything, like if I show up in, whatever garb that's because it's hot and I just don't want to, people notice, and I can't wear generic Middle Eastern anymore. I have to wear specifically Safavid, or I have to specifically wear Ottoman, or I have to specifically wear whatever Indian style that I like to do. And it's okay, because I'm here to just research these and have fun and doing these things, but you never, ever, ever get to be a nobody ever again. There's just expectations forevermore.
Right, for better or for worse, because there's certainly benefits to that, but I totally get what you're saying. I think once you become a peer, that's also part of it. But I also think there is, I'm going to say it, there's a little bit of sexism involved here too, because the peerages that tend to be more dominated by women, such as the Laurels and to some degree the Pelicans, though it's better than it used to be, but it is true. And also among royal consorts, the level of presentation of self that we expect of people can be really disproportionate to the way what we expect from men, and that does bother me sometimes. And I think that we all deserve to go to some meetings wearing our medieval bathrobes.
Yeah.
It is okay. So, and I do have a medieval bathrobe that I wear to the bathroom.
I do too. I do too.
It's literally my bathrobe.
I would say though, and this, I don't, I'm just going to say it out loud. There are, part of the reason that that ends up happening, we allow the fighters off the hook, first of all, just in general because of the sexism, but also because there are a lot of consorts who have just said, you just fight for me and make me queen, and you don't have to do anything. And so the queens themselves, the consorts themselves, are letting them off the hook. Right. And I'm really fortunate. My king was very involved. I'm his 4th and 5th queen, and he was very involved with all 4 of us because he took it seriously. He took it seriously, and here in CAID, we're very much the crown, not the sovereign and the consort, but the crown. And so I'm fortunate in that way. But yeah, I would say that it's also incumbent on us to kind of encourage people who are consorts to not let their fighter off the hook, if that makes sense.
It is, and also to not, or at the very least, not disproportionately target one member of the fighting pair over the other. You know, it's like, no, you're both responsible for what you bring to the SCA. And I love the idea of franchise, like that word gets used a lot more now, and to talk about like the total package of what you present together is really cool. I fail at it because I don't care about my franchise apparently, but my husband's really good at it, so he carries it for both of us. And you're not going to find our camp because of my banner. You'll find it because his shield is sitting out and his stuff is sitting out because he's way better at it than I am. But you know, I'm fortunate in that regard. He also bathes regularly, and everything that touches his body when he's fighting gets washed every time he fights. So he never ever, like, when he has to put on a gambeson he wore the day before and it's not been washed, he's super grossed out by that. Just a little tip out there. So I've always adored him for being hygienic, right? Yeah.
Right.
But people are like, oh, this armor bag smells terrible. I'm like, you're doing it wrong. Don't do that. Whatever you're doing. Awesome.
So looking back over your early experiences, do you have anything that you would do over?
Anything I would do over from my early days. Back when I was I don't know. I'm sure if I really thought about it, I could think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But you know, I like to think I've always been pretty nice, and my king had talked to me about this. This is not something I would do different. This is something I'm actually really happy I did. His 3rd reign, he had talked about fighting for me in the crown that he won for his 3rd queen. I had only been playing for a little over a year. We were best friends and just really, really good friends. And And I said, I haven't been playing long enough. I don't know. And I'm so very glad that as much as I lack wisdom in so many ways, I'm glad that I was able to know that, because if I had shown up, you know, a year and a half into joining the SCA, there was so much that I had to learn by serving on court, and I had by the time I did get to reign, I had been baronial officer. I had been a baronial officer. I had been an event steward, and so I was much more aware of how important my role was when I did become queen. So that's something I'm glad that I did the way I did, which is the opposite of your question, but
Totally works for me.
And everybody's got sort of their own path anyone who gets the very great privilege of being queen, because it is, no matter how much we might ever talk about it being difficult, it is such an incredible privilege. And people who do it well take that to heart and understand that this is like,
yes,
really an exalted thing that you get to do that so many people don't get to do. You have to do it. You have to put your full self into it. Whatever your abilities are, you need to put your full self in. So, you know, and I think I've been really fortunate in the SCA to have had that modeled for me so many times. There's so many people in Ontario, but also in the West, where both kingdoms that I've lived in, who are just like so good at it, you know, and it can almost be intimidating, you know, where you're like, you seem to have it so together. But I think that what you were talking about, how you had both people, the king and the queen, working in concert, doing things, you know, both taking that responsibility seriously. I think that's really the secret. It's not just a great queen or just a great king. It's, you have to work together.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be a good,
Team.
you have to have some basis for why you would reign well together.
right.
So yeah, that's really great.
We were a good team. I felt like he's a good king. I think all of his queens that preceded me, there was so much that I was able to learn. Even though I was only around for the third one, I still was friends with his first one, and I have become friends with his second queen. And but I had heard stories about her, and just I'm very fortunate, not only that there were so many amazing consorts or queens. We've only just had our first consort who is not a woman last year or 2 years ago, but I had so many that I was able to look to aspire to be like.
Yeah.
But especially in my, I like to call them my sister queens, although one of them is like, stop calling me that. So I'm like, but that's what we are.
But it's funny. May as well lean into it, you know.
Exactly.
We're already wearing long dresses. Come on, guys. Like, this is not. Yeah. Well, speaking of long dresses, what I'd love to do is put up some photos now, and maybe we can keep talking with some of these photos to guide us. So I will awkwardly move over to those like I like to do. Present. Okay. So let's do this. All right. So here's our first photo, not in medieval clothes, but it's such a great photo.
That is my household, Rux Faizeh. And I have no idea why there's 2 children that are missing. I just noticed, my own being one of them. I don't know where she was, but yes, that is my household, Rux Faizeh. And we were having just a household work day over, this is my front yard. And so of course we had to take a picture, you know, before I let everybody go.
I mean, it's so SCA.
Right?
It really is. It's just, on so many levels. I love that there's somebody there also wearing a vest and a button-down shirt. Like that's very,
yes.
it's very
Felipe.
appropriate.
Yes, that's my husband's squire.
I love it. I love it. I mean, yeah. Anytime somebody starts taking the SCA real seriously, like all the conversations recently about the Buffett controversy, I'll just say it. We're still dorks in the clover, guys. So no matter what you think about a Buffett or not, this is really what the SCA is about, is like everybody being total dorks. And we are all dorks. And if you don't think you're a dork, you're
in denial. You're in denial if you don't think you are.
Duchess Dagmar says you are a dork. We are all dorks. And so, but this to me really puts that in perspective. Like this is really what the SCA should be about, is like this kind of love and family. So all right, this is so adorable. I love this.
This is my husband, Sir Baird, and our daughter, Alice, who is now 11. But that dress was made for her by someone, one of my first friends, Samra. And I just want to say really quick, it's one of the things that I love about the SCA community is that when we were adopting her, kind of word went out that we were trying to pay for it, and private adoptions are insanely expensive. And our SCA family just started donating money, and I can't believe that people loved us that much to help us become parents. Anyway, okay.
Back to the dorks conversation. Like that is what this is about, right? Yep. It's that creation of community across, it's not about borders. It's not about, it's about really caring for each other. And I love that story. That is so perfect. And I like the feather on your head. It's like you're an underperforming peacock. You're like, nope, just the one. I love it. I love it. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. So this is that's my king, Duke Edric, and this is the second time he won crown for me, and he was not supposed to do that on that day. He tricked me into it. He was living with my husband and myself, and we had a pretty rough reign. I mean, just politically, it was rough, our first reign. And so we were really tired. And he thought that I just wanted to do a back-to-back. And I said, let's take a year off and then try again. And he had been super grumpy. And he's like, I don't want to do a back-to-back. And I was like, we'll take a year off. And he was happy. As Crown was approaching, he said, well, I'm just going to send in my letter of intent to fight in Crown, but I'm not actually going to fight in Crown. And I was like, okay, because he was worried about some people that he knew were fighting in it. And then it just kept getting closer, and it kept getting more and more like, I'm just going to do this, but I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. And then the week before, he was so sick. He was in his room. Like I said, he was living here with my husband and myself. And our house is small, so we talk to each other like without raising our voices. But he was so sick, he had to use his cell phone to call me on the house phone to bring him soup and juice because he was just too sick to say, I need help. And so I did. And then we showed up. I just didn't expect him to be well enough to win. And then he was like, just kind of plowing through. And I was still calm. I still was like, whatever, he's not going to win. And then Countess Leonora came to get me to make the wreaths. And I said, Edric's still in. And she was like, oh. And so I went to him and I was like, and Leonora is a very dear friend, and she had told me that she would be my chamberlain. At that moment, she was like, I am willing to be your chamberlain if you win. So I made the mistake of going and telling him, and he was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh,
then-
no.
Here's the best part. In the finals, he started singing in the Rain. And everyone laughed. They were thinking Gene Kelly, but I knew he 100% meant Clockwork Orange. And somewhere there's a picture of me like this, because I knew when that happened. And
That's despicable.
yes, that's why you can't see my face, because I'm glowering. So, like how pleased with himself he is.
That is very funny. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of royal consorts who have said they were not expecting to go to finals. And, you know, for similar reasons, like my first reign, my husband had just gotten his hand out of a cast. The only SCA broken bone he has had in all of the times he's been in the SCA since like rocks were soft and dinosaurs roamed the earth. He's never broken a bone. And he broke his hand at fight practice and just had gotten the pins out and won crown about 6 weeks later. And it's like, he wasn't expecting to win. I wasn't expecting to win. I wasn't anywhere near the tourney field.
Oh no.
Off doing something else.
No.
So I think that's when he fought Ethelred in the finals, maybe, but it was not expected. And I had to be found and brought back to,
Oh my.
yeah.
Oh my.
So, but in a way that makes it kind of awesome, because it's like, you're not like,
stressed
freaked
out.
and stressed out about it. Yeah. So that's great. All right. Well, let's go straight to this from that, which is awesome.
So yeah, so that's at a con. I can't remember which one, but so this is my modern job. I usually do much more traditional Rux Sharkey, but I enjoy kind of fusing my cosplay with it for
So, sexy Romulan, is that what we're
it's-
doing here?
So no, I'm supposed to be. It's our Ragnarok, and they're all Valkyries, and I was because I'm the director, I choreographed the whole thing, so I get to be why can't I think of her name? Kate Blanchett's character in the film.
I don't know, but I think I'm just gonna imagine in my own head, probably because the person standing off to the back who looks like a sexy Romulan, like that's in my
Yes.
head now. So
That makes sense. She would be really honored to be considered a sexy Romulan. So.
I mean, I think all Romulans are sexy. I'm actually kind of a fan. Romulans
Got
and
it.
Kardashians are like my weak point. So
Same.
weird.
Gul Dukat does it for me.
Just don't tell my husband, because he's already wondering what I see in him, and I'm like, no, honey, I like these lizard people and these people with weird bangs. Don't worry about it. It's not about you at all. So this is great, but the real reason I love this is because then I like to juxtaposition it with the next photo, which is very different, but also equally a big part of who you are. So
yes. So this is while I was queen at Gulf Wars, and I was dancing, around the campfire, I think. It's nighttime, so I'm assuming that's what I. So yeah, doing a little classical Persian there. One of my favorite SCA memories was that night. My apprentice brother was there, and he plays the oud, and he was not in this image, but we had gone off to another camp, and he was playing his oud and I was dancing, and it was magical, because he lives in the South and I live out here in CAID, and so I've gotten to see him in person twice, maybe 3 times ever. And so it was really magical for me.
in Ontario, we consider CAID the South, right? I'm just kidding.
I have to admit, I did some mental gymnastics with that as well. Wait, you are South. What are you? Oh,
I just think it's funny. There's places that are much further north than CAID that are considered the South, and CAID is not the South. It's just
What?
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another photo.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And
You
this is at Estrella. A friend of mine, Mistress Sabia, was being elevated to the Order of the Pelican, and she asked me to dance at her elevation. So that was a huge honor. So this is at the Estrella War in Aiden Belt.
You were talking earlier about using miniatures to
Yes.
try and reconstruct the dance steps, which I know. So I took a Risi dance, Indian dance in college for a quarter. It was way too hard. But they talk
Indian
also
dance.
about, it's really hard. It's very
Really hard.
grueling. Like you have to start when you're a 3-year-old boy, basically, is how most of the dancers were, like men, dressed in women's clothing. So, but they talked a lot about using sculpture and art to try and reconstruct the dance after it had been sort of very intentionally dismantled by British sort of
Right.
imperialism. So that's really interesting. And I think we had a question in the comments from Sir Martin of Ontier asking, how do you get from those images to what you do with your body in the dance? If you want to talk a little bit about that, we'd love to
I would
hear it.
love to talk about that. So we can't actually document past like any further into period classical Persian dance. We can't actually document classical Persian dance into the medieval period that we do, but we can document back to right after our period. So I take what I have learned by taking classes with classical Persian dancers, that what I've learned in those classes, and then I take the miniatures from period, and I find the dancers, I do the poses in just hold still, doing the poses. And then I think, okay, so if this is what they're doing in this miniature, and then in this miniature, they're doing this, how would I get from here to here without just going, eh, eh?
Right.
So I try to make it pretty. And there is like, if there's a movement that's very common, I'll kind of go, okay, that probably makes sense. So here's this pose, here's this pose, here's this pose that is frozen in time in the miniature. How can I move from one to the next and make it pretty? So do I know for sure that this is what it looks like? Of course not. We don't know. But this is the closest approximation that I can get.
Right.
But here's something that I started doing a few years ago. The Uyghurs, they have have a vested interest in maintaining the style of dance. And so even though they're over in China now, they still do their traditional dance is what I'm trying to recreate. And so when I look at classical Persian dance on YouTube that's modern, I can't be sure that it is close to what it was 500 years ago, because they let it evolve, because that's their dance. If Persians, I mean, because that's the natural progression for them. It's within their culture.
Right.
Whereas the Uyghurs are now they're separated from this, and so they have a vested interest in maintaining as closely as they can. Mm-hmm. So I like to watch their videos and say, okay, this looks similar to this pose, and they move from this pose to this pose by doing this. So even though it's modern, even though it's on YouTube, because I know that they're trying to preserve their ancient what's the word I'm looking for? Their culture, their with their
traditions and culture, and
yes, with their Islamic roots, that they're Persian roots, then I can kind of compare what some of my conclusions are
Yeah.
with what they're doing. But mostly it's just taking the miniatures and saying, okay, here's my pose, you know, and then trying to move from one to the next while making it really, trying to make it beautiful.
That's very cool. It reminds me, we have an event up here called Athenaeum that we've only had a few and then the pandemic hit, but Celadon, I don't know if she has an SCA name. I think she does, and I'm not remembering it, but Celadon Wood, that would be Morgane's daughter. She's a dancer up here, and she did a presentation where something similar, where she tried to extrapolate based on the poses interspersed with movement. And I now want to make sure the two of you know each other, because it sounds like you'd have some great simpatico, because she's also somebody who dances modernly and is quite accomplished. And I think you guys would like each other. So I think
that I may be friends with her on Facebook. Actually.
It may be. If you could please lean into that a little, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This is an awesome photo.
So this is, I'm actually being carried on a platform. And the fact that if you really look, I'm actually gridding, because I have really extreme acrophobia. And even though it's only 6 feet up in the air, or not even 6 feet, it was terrifying to me. But it was always well received when I was carried around on a leader. So I did.
Is that a coat that you're laying out on?
Is that what?
Is the blue that's covering the platform, is that a coat?
I believe that it was just like a big chunk of fabric.
There's a coat directly under her that she's wearing, that's sort of the sleeves and hem.
Oh yes, that's the sleeve. But the blue.
But the blue is like an Indian bedspread.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking it was like a block printed coat, and I was really impressed with the block printing.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Now I have ideas.
It's still cool. This is adorable.
It is my daughter. Yeah. And I just think my kid is cute, so I always want to share.
I'm loving the hair. That's the kid hair. That's my favorite kind. When it sticks straight up is my favorite kind of kid hair. Yeah.
So this is at the Valkyrie Rose tournament, which happens every year at Great Western War. And those are, so it is an invitation only tournament. The Ladies of the Rose, the members of the Order of the Rose invite people to fight for them in this tournament. And so typically you get 2 armored fighters and 2 rapier fighters, or up to 2 armored fighters and 2 rapier fighters, but only 1 peer of each style. And so this is at one of those, and that's my husband, Sir Baird, and that is Adrian. She is now Sir Adrian. She lives in Outlands, and I got to be at her elevation, so that was cool. And that is Master Diego, and I'm covering, so I can't see who the other person is, and I don't remember because I've had lots, but
yeah,
I'm sure it's a rapier fighter. I know that. So anyway, I put that on every year, or yeah. So
lovely.
This is my beautiful Laurel, Mistress Jadi, in the red. And this is at Estrella, the year that you can see I'm in the green belt. And that is the year that I took the oath with her. And between us is Maysoon, who she just had her vigil to get elevated to be the Laurel. And I don't know if she actually has done the elevation yet.
I think they did the elevation.
They did do the elevation.
Weekends ago, yeah.
So, and then that's, and I can't remember the other woman's name, but that is Jadi's Laurel on her other side. This is at Estrella War, and this is at CAID court at Estrella War when we were crowned. And I was really mad at Edric right before this because we had been trying to figure out when we were going to have CAID court. We didn't want to have it too early because there were going to be fighters who were still going to be fighting, but we didn't want to have it too late because it was on Sunday and people wanted to leave. And so we had changed the time a couple times and finally changed it to 5 o'clock. And I was there waiting for him at 5 and everyone was gathering, and he was really late. He didn't realize how late it was, but he was really late. And so I went behind the pavilion and it was closed off and I was crying. I was so angry with him. And then I could hear him strolling in through the middle, like all jovial. And he goes, well, let me go get my queen, as if I was the one making everyone wait. And I was so mad at him, and I emerged. I tried to, they didn't need to know. And then he started talking about how honorable CAID was and how inspired he was by all the populace. And I really wanted to stay mad at him, and I couldn't.
Denied you that privilege? How could he?
He did.
Well, being punctual is important. I totally agree. So
yes, he just didn't realize that it had already gotten that late. But...
Okay.
And this is also at Estrella, doing some archery. I like to do that. I'm not good at it, but it's fun. These are CAID and Ladies of the Rose. This is Countess Leonora, who is the one that we all aspire to be like here in CAID. And Carlos and Anastasia, Kisa, Larissa, Duchess Colfina, and me.
Okay.
So
I'm always taking notes. I'm like, who should we be interviewing? Okay. Okay.
Leonora is I consider her my mentor as far as, she's probably the most influential in who I aspire to be like. There are many that I aspire to be like, but especially her.
Mm-hmm.
This is the very first time that Edric fought for me, and it was actually in a Queen's Champion tournament. And this was right before he went out to the finals. He did not win, but that was right before he went out to the finals. And it just was neat to me. That was the first time he fought for me. Oh, so this is when they were doing Dancing Queen.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That's great.
We have an event out in a barony called Frost Dragon, and the last part of the event is everyone has to fight the dragon. And I kind of felt like, the dragon was just misunderstood, and he needed somebody to talk to him nicely. So
All right.
they still fought him, but
It's awesome.
this is just me in my camp two years ago, I think.
With your radio.
Yes, yes, because I was the event steward.
Yeah.
And I've always been on staff, but this year I was the event steward. So
I mean, I think that's an important detail to point out,
yes.
So you probably really deserve that time in a chair.
Yes. Fortunately, my co-steward, he's an extrovert. And so a lot of the leading up to it, he's not as detail oriented as I am. Not that I'm that detailed oriented, but I was able to handle a lot of the leading up stuff. And then while we were on site, he was able to handle a lot of the on-site stuff.
Great balance to have.
Yes.
It is. I mean, I'm extroverted, but at events, I tend to be very overwhelmed by all the people. And I'm the same, where it's like having all of those people around me just shuts me down, where I'm like, don't really
Yeah.
want to deal with you. So
That's how I am too. And while people are always welcome in our camp, everyone, my household all knows that our camp is my safe space where I get to scratch my butt. So
not that you would want to because you've been camping for 2 days, but
True.
you can. Yeah, exactly.
I can pick stuff out of my teeth. Yeah.
All of that.
Not at the same time.
No.
No. This is actually when I received the when I had my arms. What is it called when you get
Augmentation,
augmentation? Yes.
which always makes me think of breast augmentation, but every time I see it, I'm like, augmentation of arms.
No. Yeah. And the funny thing was, while they were reading the stuff, I was standing off to the side, and they're like knew that someone was about to receive their or about to be able to have their about to receive this award. And so I was like looking around, like, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be?
So what did you augment your arms with?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh, I have some
Okay.
ideas for you
Oh.
that have nothing to do with breasts. Maybe some dumplings or I don't know, harpy. So on a more serious note, this is a pretty cool photograph.
This was a huge honor for me. I was the regent of CAID, and I am the only woman so far to get to crown our sovereign. And so when we had an emergency crown, so that we would have an active crown for the remaining months of the reign. And so I got to crown, and the thing that was exciting for me was this gentleman, Wilhelm Skallagrim, was my armored champion my first reign.
Oh.
And so it was particularly, and that was when we became friends. And so that was particularly neat for me to get to crown him.
That is cool. And
And
such an
who's-
unusual opportunity to get to step
Yes.
into that role.
Yes,
Whose
and
hand is on your shoulder?
I was just going to say that hand is Duke Hans, who had come down from the west, and so he put his hand on me just as a symbolic continuation, like this, just the continuity of like the crown just continuing. Like I don't know, I can't. I'm losing my words, but it was cool to me.
It kind of maintains the unbroken line.
Yes, thank you. That's
It's cool.
yeah. This is just at an event, and I just happen to like this picture that my champion at the time, Sir Avery, who is now the prince in he's over in England, and
We know him well.
Yes. So he's a very dear friend, and we were it was the end of an event, and we were just kind of chatting, and anyway, hold on, because he just saw the way the light was hitting me, and I'm like, okay.
Well, knowing you're friends with Avery speaks really well of you on top of the pile of other stuff. I know Avery because of clubbing. So he and I were club rats together in the goth clubs of Seattle, which have winnowed down to just a few, but used to be mighty. So you can just imagine all of us with lots of like black lipstick and vinyl and latex and all of those sorts of things. And we'll move on from there. So
So this is when I'm taking the oath, when I was regent. So we put the crowns on the thrones, and I took the oath to be the regent. And that extra chair off to the side was for me, because obviously I wasn't the crown, so I couldn't sit in the throne. But yeah.
cool.
So do you have a set person that like is holding an office that becomes the regent if you're
No.
crowned? No.
I am the only regent that CAID has had, and I hope that I am the only regent that CAID ever has.
Interesting.
So
Our
yeah.
in our kingdom, our heavy champion, it's written into kingdom law that that person becomes regent.
That makes sense. That makes sense. We didn't have that in our law. And the week before that, the greater officers had been discussing who they thought should be the regent. And actually, they asked me 4 times, and I said no 4 times. and I had reasons. I gave them the reasons, and one of them was that I knew that Avery wanted to fight in Crown, and I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to be the regent and then have my champion fighting in Crown. And they said, well, we will be the ones who verify who can and can't fight in Crown. You won't have any say in that. And if we do that, are you willing to do it? And I said, yes, of course. It's an honor for me always to serve my kingdom. It really is.
Yeah. That's cool. And I think also it's such an unusual circumstance to be in. It's impossible to know exactly how to proceed through that. So I'm sure they wouldn't have asked you if they didn't think you could handle it with grace. So sort of the true definition of grace under pressure.
Thank you.
And hey, look who we have here.
Yes. And that was actually at that Crown, right after the day after. So it was, we have different names. I call it Crown Hogs Day because we had the emergency crown on Saturday, and then which was supposed to be crown tourney to find heirs. And so we just made it a 2-day event. And so instead of finding heirs on Saturday, we found who was actually taking over. And they, like, the end of the day, I crowned Scala. And then the next day, we found the heirs, which was not Avery or myself, but he did come in third. So
I wonder also if we would have more regents if we allowed toddlers to enter the lists.
well, maybe, but
I mean, that would be very period.
Actually, Viscountess Larissa is the reason you must be 18 to enter lists, because she was 10 years old when she was the princess of the Principality of CAID.
Wow.
So
We had Melissa Kendall reigned really young, but I can't remember how old she was, but I don't think she was 18 when she was princess. So that's somebody listening or watching will know the deep on tier history of that as well. So, and I think that was it. Yep. Okay. That was lovely. Thank you for walking us through those.
I hope I didn't get too chatty. Sorry.
No, not at all. It is, you know, we had a question for you about being regent, but I think you answered that really well. So I think we will move on to the next question, Ashaksi,
Okay.
if you will.
Okay. So the next question we have for you is, what is your favorite piece of advice to give at vigils?
At vigils?
Yes.
I think it's what I would have said to young me or early me is well, I'll word it this way. And I'm kind of stealing this a little bit from Leonora, but that is that your voice carries further when you become a peer. And so it is your responsibility. This is my belief. It becomes your responsibility to put what's best for the populace above what's best for yourself. And it's our job as peers to make it fun for everyone. And you know, it's the beginning of the suck can kind of be, you know, because you kind of have to set aside, not that you don't get to have fun anymore, but you kind of have to set aside your own just what you might want to do for the greater good of the populace or the kingdom. So
Yeah, because what you might want to do is curse out an entire peerage, or take a nap during court, or there's lots of things, you know.
Yes.
Go to the bathroom by yourself.
Yeah.
That's a novelty that you should
that is
you should really understand what a privilege that is if you don't have children or aren't reigning, because you don't get to go to
Yes.
So, uh, what do you think? What do you think is the most important role you play as a peer? And I'm mindful of the fact that you're about to become a pelican as soon as the plague has left us. And I'm most interested in knowing how you use your privilege and rank to make the SCA better for people, either to make it more accessible or maybe to think about, you've spoken about the fact that you look at your dance as a chance to bring kind of the best of what you can to the way we do Middle Eastern culture in the SCA.
Yes.
But what are some other things that you do to make the SCA more inclusive or safer or more just better for people that may not have your rank and privilege?
I because of my modern world privilege, that probably has prepared me a bit to understand what kind of privilege I have as a white woman in our modern world, and well, let's see, how do I hold
It's really
please
hard for you to think of something, in part because you're not used to saying things that feel like you're bragging. And this isn't bragging. This is representation, showing how what you're doing is important, that people with rank and privilege think about this stuff. I think that's really what we're communicating here.
Yes. So I think about it a lot. And to my previous point, what I say at a vigil, it is really important to speak on behalf of people who don't feel heard. And I was just talking to a friend the other day about when I was the regent and how one of the most important things to me was to make sure that everybody felt heard, because that's what I think was part of what was causing some of the trauma. Not to rehash that, but that was part of what was causing some of our kingdom's trauma, was that people were feeling unheard. And so because my voice carries further, I try to use it. And so I listen, I do my best to listen to everyone, even if I don't agree, even if I think they're full of nonsense. I still do my best to at least let them feel heard and let them know that, yes, somebody who actually has some level of power, even though it's kind of fake power in a fake,
Dorks. We're dorks.
Yes, it's still, this is still even though it's our hobby, it is still where we find a lot of validation and where we learn, how to treat each other, so that when we go back into the modern world, we can be more courteous and we can be more kind.
I use the word respite a lot, that the SCA should be a source of respite, not a source of, that's not to say it shouldn't be hard. It's just, it should be a source of, validation, inspiration, community,
Yes.
not a place that just is a constant grind of stress. And
Right.
I have to say, though, that I have a problem because I have a resting listening to nonsense face. That makes it hard for me sometimes to mask that I'm listening to nonsense, because
You don't mask.
I don't mask very well. So I'll be listening to nonsense and I'll be like,
Your eyes kind of go just a little bit.
So it can be really hard, but I have found that I use humor, where I'm like, nothing that's coming out of your mouth makes sense to me right now. So I'm gonna have to ask you to, talk in a squeaky voice or something, or else I'm not gonna be able to listen to you. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's like, it is hard, but I think that's, you talked earlier about the people that you have as mentors and the people you have around you. It is important to have people, like one of the people I have is Kalja, who can look at me and just say, stop it. Like, stop what? She's like, that look on your face, just stop it. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. We need people. We need people. My Baroness, who is in my household, she's someone who will be like, really?
Really.
Is that what you're trying to convey? So
It's true. And I'm sure you do it for other people too. I mean, that's the thing. And keeping each other honest. It's
Yes.
super important because like you said, the power we have is imaginary. It's respect that people give us. And then we have to remain worthy of it.
yes.
And when we aren't worthy of it, like that's the worst feeling, I have to say. Like when I dip into my less glorious side and let my irritation or my when I don't act the way I want to, you know, in accordance with that perception of me, it is
It hurts. It hurts.
it is. So I just try to keep people's opinion of me as low as possible so that I can just sort of skate right above that as much as possible. It doesn't work, but I try. I try. Well, thank you for that answer. I think that's lovely. Let's see, where are we? Because I keep pulling us off of the actual subject matter. So I think it's up to Dawn now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favorite event to go to? And then also, what is on your bucket list? What event have you never been to but you really want to go to?
Yeah.
My favorite event to go to is Great Western War. Even though a lot of it is work for me, but I enjoy that. I always tell people, like when people are new and they're like, how can I get involved? I'm always like, volunteer. That is the fastest way to make friends, is to volunteer. And they don't like it when I work at Gate because I talk to everybody and get up and hug everybody, and so the line gets too long. Anyway, so Great Western War is my favorite.
I love the idea of Gate being like a big welcoming hug line for anybody, for people who want hugs.
Yes.
I'm not a huge hugger, you know, but I'll take a handshake or a shoulder pat, you know. But I love that idea of like Gate and people are like, we're so glad to see you.
That's me. That's me. And yeah. But I have yet to go to Penzic. I would like to go to Penzic, and one of the reasons I would like to go to Penzic also is because nobody on the East Coast knows who I am, and so I could run around in my modern belly dance garb, and I'm just some jingle bunny, and it's okay.
I call it Burning Man for really pasty, pale white people, because it is like nobody has a tan at Penzic. Very few people, except for that guy who wears the banana. I don't know what's up with that. If anybody knows, you can let me know about that. But I think, yeah, someone in the comment, our own Rowena Demanning from Montier is saying, now people on the East Coast know who you are. So I think that's assuming viewership beyond our actual influence, but you never know.
I mean, I do have friends on the East Coast, but there's like thousands and thousands of people. If I show up in a choli and a big tribal skirt, they're just going to assume I'm, you know, whatever, and that's okay. And I would really like to go to all the major wars. That's kind of something that I would really like to do. So, and maybe go to one of the European or Drachenwald events where they have them in actual castles.
Well, you know somebody there.
I know I do, but I can't go visit him right now.
No, not without serious quarantine and all of that. So I know of all the times to not get to go visit.
Seriously, I would have loved to have been able to go and see him and his cornet and meet his lady. That would have been awesome.
We're gonna have to make sure he gets this, the recording, that we link him to it. I didn't know, or else I would have just tagged him on Facebook and been like, hey, you should watch this. By the way, you should go back and read the comments on this broadcast later. You have a lot of fans, and I can't just read all their comments because there's too many, and it's really
I don't know
lovely.
How will I do that? I don't know how to do that.
Don't do it right now.
I know, but I won't know how to do it.
It'll make you cry.
It'll
Nice.
be on the sisters interview page.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'll just
back.
go and like to play it and you'll see. And what I suggest is that you watch the comments come up in real time if you want to watch the whole interview, because they'll start popping up in reference to specific things that are being said. Otherwise, it's hard to
Okay.
track it. But it is really sweet to see people saying, "Oh my gosh, she's awesome.
There's a lot of
Aw.
love coming through.
We love you. You're so wonderful." So
That makes me feel good.
I think we're all there. We're all there with you. So as we start to wrap things up, because we're not really running over because we started late, but I'm sure we all need to go to the bathroom now. What keeps you in the SCA and what inspires you? Like what keeps you going? Because you're a Duchess and you're going to be a Pelican, and there's just a lot of, you've kind of have accomplished a lot of the things that a lot of people aspire to. So what will you continue to strive for?
Well, I mean, obviously there's always just a little bit more period authenticity. I am one of those. So it's fun. It's fun to me to always be trying to do that. But even more than that, particularly my household, but beyond my household, it's my chosen family. And so even if I got fed up with the politics and all of that, though I find politics fascinating. So even when it makes me bonkers, I still am interested in it.
If you want to fix things, that's one of the methods that you have to use. So that's right.
That is exactly so. So
because what are politics but people-led changes? I mean, that is what politics are. It's using the systems in place and altering them or moving them in a direction that allows you to make change happen. So
yes, exactly. But I like, even though I made fun of the people in the SCA back in the 90s, the people in the SCA are my people. I mean, it's a magnet for really gooby people, and that's me. So it's just, it will keep me coming back.
That may be so, but you're in CAID, and I have to say, like the few times I've flown in and out of one of the airports down there, I always step off the airport and I'm like, I think I'm the plainest like person in this airport. I don't have a tan. I've got a jiggly butt. I'm like, just everybody just assume I'm here for Disneyland. Don't even look at me. Like, everybody here's so beautiful. Don't let me mar your day.
It is all smoke and mirrors. Let me tell you, it's all smoke and mirrors.
I get it, but it is also like, I look at photos and I'm like, oh, everybody's so pretty. So, all right, get on here. It's dark up here. Don't worry about it. Maybe don't get your glasses redone.
Yeah.
Love it.
I broke my glasses at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm wearing an old prescription, and I'm kind of okay with that.
It makes it harder to see those chin hairs, is what I found. I'm like, oh, if I can't see them, maybe other people can't see them either, or at least not people my age. So
They don't exist.
I think we've reached a new low.
And I got to be part of it.
So, you have been doing videos during the pandemic, YouTube videos.
Oh, let me put up your link to your. I'll do that while you guys are talking.
Okay. So you're teaching dance.
No. I mean,
okay.
no. So early on in the pandemic, one of my very good friends, who actually we came to be friends because she was one of my students. She used to be one of my students, and she had this idea. Oh, I have this idea for a belly dance YouTube channel, and I had absolutely been thinking the same thing. And we were having a Zoom cocktail hour in like the end of March last year or beginning of April. and she was like, oh no, we're going to be competitors. I was like, let's do it together. So what we do is we interview other dancers, and we talk about things that are important to Middle Eastern dance and Middle Eastern culture and things like that. And we do some episodes with just the two of us as well. And I don't think we both are kind of easily distracted people. And so if the pandemic had not continued, we probably would still have this idea for this channel and probably would not have actually made it happen. But it's been so educational for me, and I've been dancing for over 2 decades, and I've learned so much. And originally we were just going to interview LA based people, but I mean, we can't be in the same room with them anyway. So we've been interviewing people on all across the country. And I'm trying to think if we have actually interviewed anyone on a different continent yet. No, but we have some scheduled. So it's been really cool. And then we do have some performances on there as well. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I'm going to really quick just put it, I'm going to put it on the screen really quick so that it's part of the video also, the address. So if people would like to find it, I put it in the comments too. But this is the address. I know if you're watching, it's relatively difficult to follow that channel, but it is in the comments, or you can quickly write that down and make sure you can follow that link. So
because we will also post this to YouTube, and the Facebook comments don't transfer over to YouTube.
Right. So this is the address, and hopefully people have had a chance to pause it and actually use the method to capture that.
It's called Raqs Talks, RAQS, which is the Arabic word for dance. And if you go to raqstalks.com, we have a link on there.
Great.
Very cool.
So as we close up, the silly convention that I have is to pretend that we are giving you a glorious, glamorous virtual gift basket, because that's what we would do if we were all sitting in the thrones right now. There would be some big gift exchange where we trade things that are groovy that we brought with us to the event for this purpose. And so my people would have already talked to your people and found out like what you were allergic to and what you liked and all of that. But I didn't do that. So we're going to just ask you those questions. And so first, do you like dark or milk chocolate?
Dark.
Dark chocolate?
I like both, but dark
All
is
right.
my preference.
Red or white wine?
Neither.
Neither. Okay. Do you drink spirits?
Yes, I am a dirty martini gal.
Okay, dirty martini. I'm sure I can make a joke out of that somehow. Puppies or kittens?
Kittens.
Kittens. Okay, totally can work with that. So we're giving you this glamorous virtual gift basket, and do pipe in here, Dawn, if you would like. I'm sorry, Shaxi, if you would like to add something. So we have fine chocolatiers in the Pacific Northwest, and so I think, though, I'm going to give you some Franz chocolates, which was a favorite of the Obamas. And also they have the most amazing salted caramels that you've ever had. Like, they pretty much set the gold standard for that in the world. They are so amazing. And they're about the size of like the end of your pinky and cost about $1 million each. So you're getting you're getting 4 of them. You're not I don't have the budget for more, even in a virtual gift basket, but you will, they're so good.
I will savor them.
Do savor them. And then I think if you're a dirty martini girl, I'm guessing that we could probably talk Duchess Ludwiga into pickling something really interesting for her. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Something really exotic where you're like, you want a dirty martini? This is going to be dirty
for you.
Something really interesting, you know, because she does like pepper vodka and all kinds of stuff too that you can like, but we won't label anything. You'll have to just like combine it and figure it out as you go along. So it's an experience. Hooray.
It's always an adventure.
Yeah, that would make it more fun. And then we would never give animals as a gift to somebody
Right.
without their wanting them and all of that. So what we do is just we'll put you in a small room with a litter of kittens that when you're finished letting them like crawl all over your outfit that you don't care if it gets snagged or not, you can give them back to the person. So I think that sounds amazing. I'm allergic to cats, but I would love to be like roll around with a litter of kittens and then go and take a shower. That sounds like the best time. So
Although really
Yes.
rolling around with kittens, there's no leaving without one. That's not happening.
It's true. It's
I
true.
mean, I don't know. I think if I were going to acquire another baby animal, maybe a hedgehog, like, because I love how they'll lick you and then like spit out this like frothy you-scented spit onto their little hedgehog shoulders to mark themselves with your scent. And I think that's love. That's
If that doesn't say love, I don't know.
I don't know what
does.
does. You know? So then I'm trying to think like, come on, help me out here, Ashaxi. Like, there's got to be something else. I'm thinking like maybe a litter that has guardrails on it for you so that when you're up, like it has decorative guardrails so you don't worry about rolling off of it, you know, and maybe it has shocks too. So it's a
would
really
be amazing.
right? Yeah, like a Lincoln Continental litter so you don't worry about being like dumped off of it or dropped.
And plummeting to my death.
Yeah, with guardrails, maybe, and maybe like those warning lights.
Or maybe it's just a really cool ancient Central Asian cart with
Ooh.
wheels, but it's got all of the beautiful felt canopies and hangings and
Yeah,
tingly bits.
I like it.
I like that too. Like maybe with like bars so they could pick it up if they want to keep you from being jostled.
Yes,
You know.
jostling. Heaven forbid I get jostled.
You might spill your martini
True.
or drop one of your very precious Fran's chocolates. So no. I think that would be amazing, and I hope somebody makes that for you because I can't actually obviously give it to you. But
Right.
And then the other thing I would give you is a round trip ticket to England so that you can go and be hosted around by Avery and his lady because that sounds wonderful.
That
So
would be wonderful.
oh, somebody's also saying a virtual bucket of black eyeliners that you can give to people.
Yes, that is a necessity. I like boys in eyeliner. You can take the girl out of the 80s, but you can't take the 80s out of the girl.
No, I mean, Nick Rhodes was my fashion hero when I was okay, not just Nick Rhodes, but he was my favorite member of Duran Duran by far. So
Yeah, I know. I mean, he was, yeah. I usually have eyeliner in my Tourney box so that anyone who consents to being objectified by me, then
I mean, if they just put it on really badly, you won't objectify them, right?
it doesn't.
They just look like a raccoon. I mean, I looked like a raccoon in a lot of my early years. So just imagine like Anne of Green Gables with lots of black eyeliner on. That was I was rocking that look for a while. So
I,
With little giraffe buns.
yes. Oh, right. And I'm being reminded. Thank you, Johan, who is our faithful viewer. All gift baskets should be without handles.
It's very
You
important.
can't pack them in a car.
oh, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
So the handles need to collapse or be fabric, or it needs to be a gift bag, but no handles. I'm very
Yes.
adamant about this. I think baskets with handles are terrible and should not exist. There.
At all. Wow.
There. I said it. No, I don't know. Maybe
I
other
said
people
what I
use it,
said.
but they're like, God, it was terrible. Get handed this basket with this giant handle, and you're like, you just gave me a problem. So
Yeah. Yeah. We actually had a basket burning in the backyard after.
that's brilliant. I bet they burned really well.
They really did.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I love that. All right. Well, that's in your gift basket. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
such a good sport. This was a fabulous experience. I'm so glad we got to know you. I hope you'll consider coming up to Ontier. We don't
I would
have
love
any
to.
of the big wars here except for Ontier West War, but we do have a fabulous event called Sport of Kings every other year that attracts a
to know.
lot of attention and fighters. And now that we're saying it we talk about it almost every interview, and we're going to end up with like way more people there, and I won't be able to get into any of the flush toilets, but I'm willing to sacrifice that. will come. So
You really want people to come.
right? Because when you go to those wars across the known world, by the way, if you could just let me know if they had flush toilets,
I will.
that would really help me decide whether or not I'm going to go. You should just put that first thing in the event copy.
Yeah.
We have flush toilets.
That is 100% valid because that's what I prefer to.
Yeah.
And hand washing stations.
Hand washing stations. I hope those would go with the flush toilets, but if they don't have flush toilets, hand washing stations are a good yeah.
They're a necessity.
When we were Crown, we wouldn't consider bids that didn't have them for Crown events. So we're like, hand washing stations. The dysentery is not a part of the medieval period that we want to recreate.
No, it's the Middle Ages as they should have been.
That's right. So wonderful to meet you. And
wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Do you want to send us out, Dawn?
I so do. So next week, please join us for our interview with Count Yehuda of North Shield. Keep your eyes pasted to the Sisters Interview Network Facebook page, and we will have that event up for you. And again, Your Grace, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Renew your membership.
Wear a mask.
Be good. If you can't be good, be sanitary.
Believe in science.
Yes.
Bye.